Hello everyone, it's Helen from Journaling Planet, and today I'm going to be making PAL-entine's cards. Yes, PAL-entine's cards from this book. I will explain why this book and why I'm sort of not doing my usual thing of upcycling sort of trash from my house in a bit. But to start with, I am going to harvest some images from this book that I saw on the channel Relax Cut Glue, which Nicole runs, and I absolutely love that channel. So if you want a full flip through of this book, then I recommend hopping over there and watching that video where she does the full flip through and makes some cards of her own. I'm going to first of all harvest all of the images. I've got my Garfield stationery here marking out pages that I really want to cut from. I'm going to harvest those, and whilst I do that, I'm going to speed it up and I'm going to explain to you what Valentine's Day is. Hint, I made it up. Okay, let's get started. So the reason that I bought this book was that I was ill for the whole month of January, pretty much. It's only now that I'm starting to regain my strength, and I just needed something very easy and straightforward, and it was also a little bit of a treat for myself to pick myself up after being ill for so long. In terms of Valentine's Day, I started doing this a few years back now, where I started to think about who in my life was a friend who had supported me and been there for me, and I just thought I would like to brighten their day around Valentine's. And I tried to think particularly about people for whom Valentine's may not be the best time. And I decided to invent my own day of Valentine's Day on the 12th of February, but you could pick any day of the month. And I sent a card to those people just to brighten their day, and they really appreciated it. In my case, Valentine's Day this year is the anniversary of my husband being admitted to hospital for the last time. So I do understand that Valentine's Day is not a good time for everyone. And there are lots of reasons why that might be. So Valentine's is kind of a recognition of that and a bid to just find a way of sending some love out into the world, even though for myself also it's not the best day of the year. So that's Valentine's Day. Let's get back to the tutorial. Okay, I have done a lot of fussy cutting off camera, and these are all my scraps, which I'm going to put in a pile and use in a different project later this week. I'll make a video on that. And just before I start making these postcards, which I'm just making on some coloured card that I have in my stash, just want to say a little bit about the fussy cutting that I do and how I go about it, because it might help some of you who find it quite a fiddly process. I used to be really tentative when I did fussy cutting, and now I am brutal. As you can see, I go right up to the edge of the creature. Very little white is showing. I will probably ink any little bits of white that I don't want showing. And when it comes to things like this, there were stems poking out the top of the cherry. I'm really sorry. I've only got limited amount of time to do this wonderful hobby per week. I don't want to spend it cutting out a cherry stem that's probably going to break off before I even glue it down anyway. I mean, it was touch and go whether the straw made it. It did. But I could have just cut that off if I chose to. And you can disagree with me in the comments if you wish, but I just don't think it would have made that much difference in the overall grand scheme of things. Each to their own on that point. Everyone's going to feel differently. But, this guy had a haircut because all his ears were all kind of shaggy and you'd have to go around and cut the individual hairs. No, I'm sorry. I don't have time. Things like this, where the two things are sort of connected, sort of next to each other, and there's a bit in the middle where you've got to cut it out. I just cut straight through and cut out the triangle, because when you glue it down, you won't be able to tell that that's been cut. So there's some things there that may or may not appeal to you when you're doing your fussy cutting. I just thought I would mention them in case they're helpful, because I did used to think, how are people getting through all this fussy cutting? And I was being really, really tentative. And now I'm just a lot more brutal with it. I just really go in there and cut as close to the edge, of the creature or the object as possible. So now that you know what Palentines is, and now that you know about my fussy cutting technique, I'm going to make 4 cards to send out to friends who I think would really appreciate a pick-me-up. And I'm going to just collage these things down and around the corners, and I will show you the finished product when I'm done. I will speed up the collage process, but not so much that you can't see what I'm doing. So hopefully you get a sense of my method. There is some method in the madness. Okay, I'm just going to share a few things that occurred to me as I was making these that might be useful for you. I aimed to get 5 things initially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the canvas. And I did this because, as a general rule in collage, it is acknowledged that odd numbers of ephemera actually work better in the space. However, in this instance, I was left with a gap here. So I thought, well, we've got room for an extra cat, and the person I'm sending this to likes cats. So I'm going to put that in. And I'd already decided when I made the first one, this one, that I was going to staple a little piece of lace. I wanted there to be something that was reclaimed on this postcard. So I decided I was going to staple this piece of, I'm not even sure if you call it lace. What do you call this? It's like a doily. Anyway, I decided, I've been hacking into it recently in projects, I decided that I wanted to staple it. So ultimately I did have 7 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's still, I think that's why I got away with it, design wise. And in each case, I just went around the edge and inked with some peacock feathers distress ink. I wanted something that was actually going to stand out. I did try a little bit of pink ink before, and it just wasn't showing up, so I decided to go with something that was a complete contrast. In this case, because of the lace, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's got 6 elements. I guess you could count the background as 7, but it just goes to show it's not a strict rule. Just because in some respects odd numbers on a collage do look better, it doesn't mean that every time it's the case, and I really like how this has turned out. This one again was one where I ended up having extra space, and so I added in this picture, which, if you remember, was the one that I cut straight through in order to cut this out. And as you can see, you can't tell that I cut through the image. So I just wanted to sort of show you and sort of prove to you that it really doesn't make much difference if you just cut through an image like that. Once you glue it down, it does look flat. I can see a couple of marks that have occurred with the ink, so I might put something over those marks, like this one here has got a little ink mark on it. I might actually doctor that and just put something over it. It does happen when I get my distress ink out. I'm not that careful with it, and that has consequences. But just to reassure any of you who are in the same boat as me and not as careful with your inks, I can put something over that if it comes to it. I might even just staple another bit of lace. That'll be fine. So those are my PAL-entine's cards. I'm going to let them dry, put them under a book to flatten them out, because the gluing process tends to warp the paper a little bit. It's quite thin card. And then I'm going to write them out, put them in envelopes and send them out. I put them in envelopes because I'm paranoid about our postal system losing or damaging things like this. So I'm going to put them in envelopes, and hopefully the person who receives them, or the people who receive them, I should say, will have a lovely surprise in the post. Who can you think of who would benefit from receiving something like this? It might just put a smile on someone's face. You don't have to buy the book like I did. I just really needed to pick me up after being ill for nearly a month, and I needed something easy that I didn't have to manipulate and think about, and this project definitely falls into that category. So you can use whatever's in your stash. You do not have to use the same things I've used. You could even send something that isn't even Valentine's related. You could just send a nice card that you have made to someone and tell them it's a PAL-entine's card. So I hope this is an inspiring idea. I'm really looking forward to sending these out because I know they'll be appreciated. So that's it for this video. I really hope you've enjoyed watching, and I am so pleased to be back in this craft chair. I can't even tell you. I've saved all of my spare fussy cuts and scraps, and I'm going to be making a project with those, which I will post in a video later in the week. I often do post about leftover project scraps and how to use them. There is a video I can link to down below if you're interested in some other ideas on that. Otherwise, please do share in your comments what you think about this project and any ideas you have about creating PAL-entine's fun on the run up to Valentine's Day, which as you heard in my voiceover, is not a fun time for everyone. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.